Let us now talk for more with somebody who is not even a somebody. ChatGPT answers our question. What risks do countries face when reducing their military arsenals? That is our question to ChatGPT, and the network answers. Reducing military stockpiles can have both potential benefits and risks for countries. While it may seem logical to aim for disarmament and a more peaceful world, certain risks need to be carefully considered. Here are some of the risks associated with reducing military stockpiles. Number one, national security concerns. A significant reduction in military stockpiles can leave a country vulnerable to external threats. If a country faces aggression from other nations or non-state actors, it may find it difficult to defend itself adequately without sufficient military resources. I just love this maybe what ChatGPT uses, but do you think, David, that to lessen your stockpiles is a clever idea at all?
Sorry?
Do you think that to make your stockpiles less, to stop producing ammunition for any grounds, moral, whatever it is a good idea, is a clever idea? Isn't it a bit stupid?
It depends on the political situations. After the Cold War ended, many countries really believed that they simply would not need such amounts as they had produced in the Cold War. So for some, we can look also on Israel. Example, after Israel signed a peace agreement with Egypt, Israel also reduced its army, maybe not stockpiles, but the standing and reserve army. Now, for instance, Israeli army has much less equipment, much less tanks. In the 80s, we had 3-4 times tanks more than we have now, because our main military threat was Egypt, and after peace agreement we thought we can reduce it, not like Europe did, that many countries reduced it almost to zero. But if a political situation changes, because big army and big military stockpiles cost a lot of money. It damages prosperity and economical advance. But now they see that European countries gone too far in this direction, so they now have to go back. The problem is it can be done swiftly and fast. So we have to wait if Europe will come back to big armies and the amount of stockpiles they had in the 80s. Even if European countries will decide on this, it will take them a great deal of money and many years to come back to situations they had.
But what about the great deal of freedom? I mean, of course, stockpiles costs money. Everything costs money, and stockpiles, military things are always expensive. But isn't that a bit more expensive when your nation loses its freedom? When a thug comes into your house, you have to be ready. So, I believe Israel knows that above all countries in the world, living constantly in a war.
Of course, it's a main problem. You have to take your risk. If you're in a hostile environment, it won't be wise to disarm yourself. But the problem is, Europe at least thought that they come to heaven now. They don't have any real threats, any real enemy after Russia is not longer big, strong Soviet Union, so now we can relax. Looking backward, we can say that they made a mistake, but we know this now.
It's a fact. It's a fact, yes.
Yeah. We know this only now.
Strategic imbalance is a point number 2. A unilateral reduction in military stockpiles by one country might lead to an imbalance of power in the whole region. This imbalance can potentially encourage aggressive actions from nations with larger stockpiles, as they may perceive an opportunity to gain an advantage. David, this is what happened to Russia, right? I mean, the failure of Russian aggression, which was about to take Kiev in 3 days and all these delusional plans, and instead they got bogged down in a war that Russia able to drag out but is not able to win. What was it all about? The general reason for the whole war from Russian side, what do you think, as an expert, is the reason for Putin to do this?
The reason was that Putin didn't want Ukraine to go in west. And we can put it in a simple words, and doesn't have to be formally in NATO, but we saw that Ukraine really going more and more west, and because many in Russia, including Putin in particular, still see, if not all of the Ukraine, but most of the Ukraine as their historical territories, they just simply wouldn't let go. This is our land, we won't give it to the West, so if we can make Ukrainian stay with us.
It's not.
By other means, so we will invade them, we will install a puppet government, and like this. The problem for Russians was their initial plan did not succeed. So they didn't prepare the army long war as it is going now. That reason the war looks as it looks, because Russians have another war in their mind when they prepare the forces and prepare the plans. They prepare for one war and get altogether different war.
Exactly. Point number 3, made by ChatGPT, alliance commitments. Countries that are part of military alliances might face challenges if they unilaterally reduce their military stockpiles. Such actions could lead to concerns amongst their allies about the country's ability to fulfill its commitments in the alliance. David, what is the best alliance for Israel? Who's best Israel friend in the world? In terms of country, what do you think?
The main strategic ally is, of course, USA, but Israel tries to build a connection with the countries in the region, and there was in 2020 there was Abraham Accords. So Israel signed a peace agreement with United Arab Emirates, with Bahrain, and with Morocco. So now Israel even sells weapons to Emirates and Morocco. We have military cooperation. So, of course, these countries will, and not even USA, will fight with Israel in the next war. But it always good to have connections and on some levels, and allies and some levels. But the difference between Israel and the European countries, as we said, NATO have the whole idea of NATO that all the countries will fight one for another. And Israel doesn't have this luxury. In any case, Israel will fight by itself, but in the fields it can find allies such as financial and military support, technological support from USA. Israel gets it, but not the obligation to fight with Israel in Israeli wars. This is the main difference between Israel and NATO countries.
A question from me, small question, but very important. Do you believe that Russia is a potential threat to Israel in any ways?
For now, Russia is not a threat, but it does provide some problems for Israel because of strong military cooperation developed in the recent years, and especially in this war, cooperation between Russia and Iran. Not only Russia receives UAVs from Iran, it also transfers to Iran military equipment, military technologies. Of course, Israel would like that this will stop, but it won't. And also there are problems that Russia makes for Israel in Syria because of the Russian military group in Syria makes it more difficult for Israeli airstrike, but Israel tries to maintain level of deconflicting with Russia. Officially, Israel does not see Russia as a direct military threat or as an enemy. We have economical ties and diplomatic ties, and more or less neutral state of mind, and the problems as they appear, try to solve them without military actions.
Right,
More
or less. Yep. Point number 6, arms race concerns. If multiple countries reduce their military stockpiles simultaneously, there might be concerns about creating a power vacuum that could lead to an arms race, as countries may seek to fill the void left by others. Number 7, technological advantages. Countries may be hesitant to reduce stockpiles of certain advanced weaponry, fearing that they may lose technological advantages over potential adversaries. Number 8, humanitarian crisis. While reducing military stockpiles is generally a positive goal, it is essential to consider the potential impact of international humanitarian crisis. If a country's military capabilities are significantly reduced, its ability to respond to humanitarian disasters and crises may also be affected. Once again, I just love this may and maybe of ChatGPT, but of course it does. Of course, it reduces the military potential of the countries. But the answer maybe is the technology, the high tech, which Israel, I know, uses all the time. The technicians, one of the best in the world. Maybe high tech is the answer to arm race. Lesser, but a more powerful weapon.
It depends on the character of war that every country sees in the potential scenarios. For instance, this current Russian-Ukrainian war teaches us once more a lesson that this is a war not of quality but of quantities. Ukrainians received very superior technology, military technology from the West, SIMs and etc. But we see the main problem is quantity. So not all the problems can be solved with high technology. Big wars demands large quantities of weapons without regard to the quality.
Thank you for your answer. Number 9, and the last point from ChatGPT, nuclear disarmament challenges. In the case of nuclear weapons, disarmament can be particularly complex due to issues of verification, trust, and the potential for rogue actors acquiring nuclear capabilities. It's important to note that despite these risks, there are also potential benefits to reducing military stockpiles, thinks ChatGPT, including cost savings, reduced tension, improved international cooperation, and increased focus on addressing social and economic challenges. Countries must carefully assess the balance between these risks and benefits while considering the unique geopolitical context and security needs. Diplomacy, transparency, and international cooperation plays a crucial role in managing the risks associated with military reduction efforts. I want to ask another question, and the last question for today. David, in general, do you think that our Ukrainian generals and military authorities are so clever, or just Russian authorities and generals are so stupid?
I would say that not that and not this. The problem of Russia in this war is not the generals are stupid, because, as I said, they prepared all the economy, all the military for just another kind of war. And when the country prepares for one war and gets another, they have many problems, as we see. But Ukraine, of course, we saw many. I don't know if use the word great. We have a good combat achievements by the Ukrainian army, but I don't think that every Ukrainian general is a genius. Of course, there is a General Zaluzhny, but they don't have 10,000s of General Zaluzhnys. And one of the problems, because of the war, they have to triple the army. Right. That means they need 3 times more commanders. And one cannot say that all these new commanders will be military geniuses. So the Ukrainian army also has this amount of military stupidity, but they're fighting for the country, for their freedom, and they have more motivation. They have Western help that compensate for all the mistakes, cons that every military has. I was in the Israeli military. They had the fair share of stupid officers, stupid generals. Not everyone is genius. The problem is they have to fight with what they have. They don't have another generals. They don't have another army. They have to fight with what they have now in hand.
Indeed, indeed. But I mean, there's only one thing for me to add to it. If Ukrainian army would have 10,000 Valery Zaluzhnys, I don't think that Russia would stand a chance. And I don't think personally that the war would even break out. I think that the war will be ended by now. But this is just my speculation on this, you know, because I'm an admirer. Yes, I have to admit that.